y'all. Welcome to the First Tracks podcast, the New Hunters Rendezvous. My name is Victor Torres.
And I'm Zach Khashan. We're two friends that came together through our passion for hunting, fishing, and everything outdoors. Every 2 weeks, we'll be bringing you a fresh episode and share stories, perspectives, and resources for hunters, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts of all walks of life.
So whether you're laying your own first tracks or a lifelong hunter who wants to share their experience and knowledge of the outdoors with our community, grab yourself a cold one and let's get after it.
All right, man. Episode number 2.
Number 2.
In the books.
Yeah.
Feels like just yesterday we were just talking about this idea and just, kind of working through the details. And
dude, it's been less than 6 weeks?
Yeah, it has.
We're learning things as we go, but yeah, it's moving quick. Good things happening. A lot of cool stuff in the works. We'll get into it a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But man, let's get things started. I think what I would like to do is I want to be able to bring our audience, just a little bit of news updates, what's going on right outside of just kind of the immediate hunting season that we're in. We're coming to you from the state of Georgia, so a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about initially is going to be related to our state and the local community that we live and we recreate in. We want to be able to bring, a wider audience, a level of information about hunting, fishing, and the outdoors in general. Because ultimately across the U.S., man, we're fortunate enough that we have this system that we can participate in across all 50 states. In some way, shape, or form. With that said, man, what's been going on? Any cool stuff that we want to talk about or just kind of dive into before we talk turkey today?
Yeah, so it's April, right? So by the time we put this episode out, it will be April.
It's actually, you're right. I was going to say it's March now, but you're right.
Exactly,
when we're hunting, yeah.
Yep. So we're kind of creeping into the end of March here.
Getting antsy, man. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready for this cold weather to be away and us to be full blown outside, whether we're fishing, hunting, whatever.
It's weird. It's like sweaters, short shirts, sweaters, jacket, and give me something. Give me warm weather at this point.
Yeah, we keep getting teased, at least in our area.
Cool, man.
So April. Coming up, so I'll be doing a lot of fishing as well as turkey hunting, and it's actually one of my favorite times of the year to get out on the water is bass fishing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You've got the fish, they're starting to transition from that deeper water bite, so being held up in deep pockets or ditches, whatever you want to call it. And they're starting to kind of move up more shallow, and what you're going to see is the fish are going to become more aggressive. I think that has a lot of value in it because you can go out there and have an incredible day, right?
Off the bank, really.
Off the bank,
with not a whole lot, right? And that's, to that point, my wife Megan and I, that's kind of how we started. Before we took that next little step, right, and buying that little 14-footer John boat,
which is sweet, by the way.
It is, but it's not, I underplay it, but it's actually a nice little rig. For what I paid for, it's a nice little rig. It gets us to places where we weren't able to go before. But yeah, it's kind of that little graduation step from the bank, which, we had some success. But there are still a lot of people that, that's what they have access to. Places like, where we live, there's miles and miles of banks, right? From our lake, from rivers. So yeah, I think just being able to empower some beginner, intermediate folks that want to take advantage of this warmer weather, want to take advantage of, kind of the seasons in fishing. Yeah, you can kind of give us a little bit more about, what should we expect? What should folks kind of have on hand to be able to take advantage of that, spawning season? Yeah,
if I was going outside and I had only had access to the bank, right? So I would have 2 things in my tackle box. It would be a shaky head, so any type of plastic worm. I tend to kind of favor the more natural colors, and a lot of this kind of depends on what your water looks like, where you're fishing, and kind of where those fish are moving is a lot dependent on water temperatures.
Okay.
So,
but you're kind of saying some type of an artificial lure with like a lead type weight and hook that sinks to the bottom.
Exactly.
That way you're able to pretty much from the bank, you're casting, you're kind of moving that bait.
Yeah, and it's a very finesse type bait, right? Like whether it's a Texas rig or a shaky head, it's a very finesse type of fishing.
Yeah.
So you're covering a lot of water. You might not be, getting into it as you would like a topwater bait
Right.
or something. You'd be working kind of fast, and you just really get the opportunity to kind of cover a lot of water, drag your bait across the fish's beds. Like I said, we're kind of in the pre-spawn period to where these fish are going to start moving up, and as we kind of get into the spawning phase of the bass, you're going to start seeing the bass sitting on their beds, and they're going to become pretty aggressive because they've laid their eggs. They're trying to protect it, and so
you're really trying to activate some type of a reaction to some type of either predatory or protective reaction by utilizing some of these baits during this type of season.
Exactly.
So no, that's cool, man. So I think kind of, I think for me, I've always felt like I was kind of like a one-dimensional type outdoorsman when it came to like seasons. Like if I'm hunting turkey or if I'm hunting deer, like that's where I'm at, unless something just kind of takes my attention that says I'd rather be doing this. But for the most part, my head is locked.
Your focus
on that particular season.
And I think that's kind of where you and I are different in a sense, is just because I'm really bad about keeping my focus on one particular thing, right? Like I want to be out doing everything.
Yeah.
And
it's hard, man. I mean, people we're not career hunters. We've got jobs, and it's balancing it's kind of like that value system, right? Is like, what would I prefer spending my time on during this time of year, right? Especially with turkeys, because turkeys, it's a very limited time frame, right? Where you can kind of have that peak window of success, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason in the back of my mind, I feel like fishing's always there, but there's also seasonalities to it, right?
There is, yeah. And what you're going to catch is very seasonally dependent on whether it's the winter, summer, fall.
Or even the body of water, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned turkey, right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of give an idea of where we are in the turkey season. What are we kind of getting prepared for, and what are some key dates that our listeners here in Georgia need to be paying attention to?
Yeah. So as far as turkey's concerned, and we're going to dive into turkey a little bit more here further in the episode, but here in the state of Georgia, we're ramping up for the season in private land and public land. So private starts March 30th. That's when we kick off the season, and I got to tell you, man, I'm ready. I know for sure Megan's ready, right? That's kind of her. Turkey is where it's at for her. So I know she's going to be hounding me about going out there, and that's good. I love that. So private land. So let's say, for us, the way we define, not us, but the way the system defines private is, I don't know, your grandfather's farm, right? Or your buddy's ranch where you can privately go. There's an owner and you've got private permission to hunt that property.
Or a private piece of leased land, right?
That's right, yeah. A private piece of a hunting club, if you're a part of a hunting club. That starts March 30th. For public, when we talk about public land, this is land either federally or state-owned land that is managed by the local state departments, right? In the case of Georgia, the Department of Natural Resources, the DNR. That starts April
6th.
April 6th, yeah. So that was one of the big changes from 2 years ago. They pushed out the dates pretty much about a week. There's been a little bit of kind of, people have been a little unhappy because of where the breeding activities kind of lie within that timeline. At least for the eastern wild turkeys, the breeding patterns really start in February to early March.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen. I don't know if you still have cameras out from deer season, right? Still have batteries in them. I'm seeing turkeys full strut.
What I've been capturing at least on my cameras on the properties that we hunt, I've never seen more turkeys than I have in my entire life. So,
which is a great prediction for the 2023-2024 season.
So that's what I'm hopeful, right? I mean, we've done some preseason scouting. We kind of know the areas we want to go in. We haven't gone in just because we don't want to cause any disturbance, especially now since the breeding activities have already started. But yeah, just getting ready for that, man, and making sure that we've got what we need to get started. I know licenses are going to have to be getting renewed here.
Yep. Don't forget to renew your harvest card.
I know. That one always is a tricky one, but
gets me every year.
Yeah, but along those lines, you know, it is important, right? Just to make sure that, again, when you're thinking about all these things, you know, part of your checklist needs to be your license, right? Many years ago, my wife and I just decided to always invest in the sportsman license here in the state of Georgia, which pretty much covers you for all seasons, all types of game, and even some recreation. So that just pretty much covers us all year round. But there is a license for every person, whether you're turkey hunting, whether you're trout fishing. There's something different for everyone. One of the things that we will be doing for our audience, man, is we're going to be putting together an infographic, because one of the things that I struggled with when I first started hunting, it's gotten better. Georgia's licensing purchase system has gotten better, but it was always just like, what do I need? You know, do I need this extra? It's very confusing, right? So if you knew you wanted to hunt doves, you needed a migratory stamp, right? For birds that are migratory. Oh, wait, you want to go duck hunting? Well, you need a federal stamp that's not covered by the state. So it's just a lot of confusion. So we're going to put together an infographic for our community, for the state of Georgia, right? Specifically to kind of show you, if you're wanting to participate, here are the things that you need. Obviously, hunter's education, right? But if you're hunting private, if you're hunting public, and depending on what kind of game you're hunting. So that's coming up, and that's one of the resources we're going to share that we're creating to help our community better understand, at least here locally in the state, how to navigate the system and what do they need to participate.
Right. So you kind of touched on turkey, right? What do you wish that 7 years ago somebody would have come up to you and told you, "Hey, Victor, this is what you need to get started, and these are the avenues that you need to start going down"? Like what would be the words of wisdom, I guess, that you could have received as a new hunter, new turkey hunter?
So I think, I don't know if it would be necessarily words of wisdom. It'd be more words of frugality, right? Because, one of the things, man, like you and I both know, the internet is full of great resources, but there's also a lot of push from the industry to buy stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of the push comes from the big time gearheads, right? And
it's cool. There's a place for it. There's a place for it. But one of the things that I probably would say early on, Zach, honestly, was like, I always kind of compare it to going into the jungle for like a 3-day expedition. When I hunt, I don't know, 20 miles from here, even in our public lands, right? You're only going a few miles in at most, right? Yep. If you're being smart. And honestly, man, like throughout the years, I think that the first thing I would tell myself, or if it was somebody, right, giving me advice, is like, dude, you don't need all that stuff. You don't, right? You need camouflage attire. That is a given with turkeys. But camo, making sure that you have just the bare essentials. We can talk through some of these things. And over the years, man, like I've stripped down, and you've even seen it with my deer system. Right. Yeah,
you're running essentially a fanny pack, right?
yeah, a fanny pack. Yeah, it's cooler than it actually sounds, but yeah, for the most part, it's a fanny pack because for myself, I want to make sure I've got some kind of protection, right? Because we are in a wildlife area, so we are sharing the ecosystem with black bears. We're sharing the ecosystem with bobcats and other creatures. But man, there's a couple of essentials, right? So I think I actually bought a different vest a couple of years ago, and Zach can attest to this. I'm a real frugal guy. I'm the guy that, like, I want to be able to use things for multiple purposes. I bought this turkey vest. Truth be told, it really holds everything I need in here, right? It has pouches for my ammunition, which, again, you don't need 3 boxes of ammunition when you go hunting.
Yeah, you need maybe 1 or 2 shells.
So that was one of the biggest, dude. I used to walk in with like 2 boxes of shells like an idiot. Yeah. And I, like a liter of water and a sandwich and all these things. And I'm like, for what, dude? Like, you get to where you're going and you're already like sweating, and it was ridiculous. So this has been my go-to, man, and I actually use this for multi-purpose. Like, I use this to go train my dogs. I use this to go bird hunting. So it's a multifaceted, and hell, I even use it for squirrel season this year.
That's exactly what that looks
Dude,
like a perfect squirrel pouch.
I'm telling you, you know, so it's got what you need for turkey. I actually use a different system for sitting down. So turkey, you're going to be sitting down, you're going to be moving. You want to make sure you're comfortable, especially here with the geography that we have, I should say the topography, hills and this and that. You're not always going to find a flat space to sit, right? So you need to make sure you've got some kind of a seat that puts you low to the ground, right? So you want to make sure you've got something that's very portable. In fact, I'm actually trading this out, dude. I'm trying to pare it down even further. I just moved into a different system. This is just one of those primo, you know, we're not sponsored, so, but it's like I think what they call like a low boy, where you just kind of, it's like a camping chair, but it's like ground level. You're leaning back and you've got, you know, you're tied to a tree, an oak or something that covers you up, but it's portable. What I don't like about it is just the strap. It's very loud. Yeah. When it hits a tree, dude, forget about it. I've actually, in many cases, if I hit a tree or, you know, go through some brush, I just leave it behind because I'm like, I'm done with this. So this year I'm making a little bit of a change. The ever important hunter's orange.
Especially if you're hunting public land, right?
You do not want to get shot.
Yep.
We saw a video on the internet one day where a hunter was turkey hunting. They were following the rules. There was a group of kids hunting turkey with a .22. He got shot in the leg. So this, unfortunately, it didn't save him, but it maximizes your chances for being safe out there, and it's required. So you need to have your hunter's orange with you.
Yeah, and I think another good quick safety tip is just to not carry your decoys in a way that it could be construed as somebody looking through a bunch of brush, or, you know, whether they just don't have like full visibility of what's going on. To not think that it's a live turkey and want to shoot at it, right?
So, a buddy of mine turned me on to these. They're not expensive, right? I mean, you can go crazy. I was looking at a decoy today that cost close to $200. Granted, I'm sure the quality is great, but you know, my buddy's had a lot of success with this. You know, he kills turkeys every year, so I always look at that, right? Is what is that person that is successful utilizing? So he turned me on to these. These go very nicely in the back pouch. It's got a little stake that you put on the ground, and you know, whenever you need it, hey Riley, whenever you need it, it's there. Again, talking about camouflage. So one of the things, sorry guys, Riley's curious here. One of the things that I did make a change this year, and I'm trying this out. I always carry a mask and I always carry some gloves. This year though, I've kind of gone with that ghillie material.
Like the leafyness of it.
Yeah, man. I mean,
really breaks up the outline.
And for somebody who wears glasses, I need some more breathability, because one of the biggest problems I run into is that my glasses just fog. And I have bad vision to begin with. So I need something that I can really, you know, kind of get past that, so that it's not a barrier. When something comes through, I have clear visibility. I have very low margin of error.
And I think another great part about this piece of gear that you have right here is it's got a built-in mosquito net.
Oh, yeah, right? Dude. And you know that once the later spring months hit, right? I mean, in the forest, it's
bug galore.
Dude, yeah. So same thing with the gloves. I'm going a little bit different this year with the gloves. It's same ghillie material. Ghillie is just kind of that, you know, mesh, leafy, military style material. What else? Pocket knife, important.
absolutely. I see you and I are carrying the same exact pocket knife.
Exact pocket knife. It's a great knife. Again, we're not endorsed, so we're not gonna whatever you choose. Obviously, and believe it or not, I no longer carry a box. I'll just put anywhere from 4 to 6 rounds of whatever you're shooting, and that's something that we can get into later on. Is what are you shooting, right? Because in our case, we're shooting shotguns. This year, I'm actually going to a .410 caliber, lighter. It's compact. It can break apart. And my wife's still sticking with her 20 gauge.
And that seems to be an industry, almost becoming like an industry standard. I don't want to say standard, actually.
Trend. I think it's a trend.
Yeah.
Because it's effective. What I'll say is that the 410s turkey rounds are a little bit more expensive, but to me, it's worth kind of that shedding that extra weight. You know, you've seen my old school, you know, Benelli pump that I had. I mean, that thing, dude, when you're walking around all day in the turkey woods, it's heavy, and it's just. So I'm trying to shed as much weight as possible. I should be working on my own weight, but I'd rather shed the weight of the equipment. For me, dude, it's important for me to carry some type of first aid, right? I am allergic to yellow jackets. I learned that the hard way. So I do actually have a first aid kit, but this to me is very important, an EpiPen, in case I gotta help myself out in the woods. Again, I'm usually never hunting
too far.
Yeah, not like in backcountry, right, where you're far away, but just being aware that, again, you are in a natural environment, critters all over the place. You just have to be prepared to do some type of quick medical intervention if something happens, right? Some type of a bite or anything. What else?
Calls.
Yeah, dude, calls. So turkey calls, right?
So I want to preface this with, this is something that you can really get into and really spend a lot of money on.
That, and it's just a subject in its own. You can do 2 podcasts full of calls. But what we're trying to do is we're just trying to kind of get folks started on, again, if you rewind the clock and told me what I had to pack and have as a beginner to be successful, and the things that you have to focus on as you go in and start learning, is turkey calls, communicating, right? Talking turkey, right?
Speaking the love language.
The love language, dude. And I think that's what I like about turkey hunting, right? It's a give and take, right? It's not like deer hunting, right? Where you kind of sit there, you do some type of vocalization, and then you wait for it, right? It can be a very interactive experience, right? So so the world of turkey calls, right, is how you talk, the love language, as Zach said, during breeding season. You have a variety of mechanisms, anywhere from what you call friction, or in this case, it's one of the older type box calls. It really it's just a mechanism that mimics the sound of a hen.
And you could do a lot of different things with that, right? You could go gobbler, you could go hen,
do so many things. This thing requires its own time and practice to be able to be at least decent. For myself, I really, at this point at this stage in my hunting career, I can really only mimic hens, right? So there's this type of call, but again, every one of these devices, it's going to require some practice, just like everything else, right? Just like you require practice to shoot your weapon, your bow, whatever it is, you have to put some time in. And then you move on to what they call, like a pot call, right? A pot call, all it is, it's another friction type device that requires some type, in this case, what they call a striker. And in this case, we have a pot call that is glass, right? So it's got a glass surface that comes with some type of an abrasion material to allow you to basically scuff up the glass, right? Which is kind of weird. When you get into it, you're like,
why am I
wood on glass? But, I don't want to do it because our dogs are going to go bonkers. But, so this is, again, it requires practice. And,
a lot of practice.
And you mentioned a word earlier, finesse, right? You almost have to go back to like grade school, like when you were learning how to write cursive. Like you got to practice your J's. You have to practice these little moves to be able to mimic the same sounds that you would hear or in the wild. They also come in different materials. So all I've known is the glass, but there's also slate, ceramic, and that's just the surface right here. This actual scratching surface is you can get it in those other type of materials. It's always going to be some type of a wood striker. Same thing with this, man. Like you can go crazy just.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
On strikers, like custom strikers and all that.
And the point of us saying this is you don't have to go out and spend a boatload of money on all these things, right?
This is my OG.
Yeah,
this is what I bought. Maybe like what's a Bass Pro? Maybe 7 years ago. This one probably came into my arsenal 5 years ago. And then there's another category, man, that we talked about during episode 1, and people were actually like asking, like,
"What is that?" You
guys said the word diaphragm. That can mean a lot of things, right? especially to women listeners. But let's clarify what a diaphragm is. A diaphragm is just another turkey call, a mouth call, basically. It's really all it is. It's just a piece of,
tape with a couple reeds on it, right?
Reeds, some surgical tape, some prophylactic material, and this thing sits in the roof of your mouth. Again, this one probably, I would say, requires a lot more practice than these two.
It does, and that's kind of something that I'm really starting to understand, right? Is because I, pretty recently just went out and bought a couple of diaphragm calls, and I tried it out, and
it's embarrassing the first time. You
absolutely,
try it. It's like,
yeah. My fiance came in the room, and she's like, "What, are you dying?"
Shut the hell up, yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's like you feel silly doing it, but to me, when I hear somebody who really knows how to utilize these, I feel like this is the closest it gets to the real deal.
And you also have a giant advantage of using that versus one of those because you're totally hands-free, right?
Hands-free, man. Yeah, so that's the, sometimes last year, I was in a situation where there was a hen behind me. And you can hear this thing, right? You can hear it, and you don't know if there's a gobbler behind it. You don't know what's coming next, right? So here I am with my shotgun. I was still using my Benelli, so I've got this, 20-pound shotgun. It's not 20 pounds, but it feels 20 pounds. And then I'm trying to work a call. So yeah, man, this to me is a no-brainer because, again, like you said, it gives you that hands-free ability. And in this case, right, it comes with 3 different, I'll call them cuts, because that's really what differentiates the sound, right? Is the cuts that they make in the material is what gives you different sounds, different tones. I consider these kind of disposable, after a season, unless you really take care of them. They get stuck together, but that's what a diaphragm is. It's really just a hands-free apparatus that you put at the top of your tongue. And again, we can dive deep into these things in another episode, or maybe we do some side videos, right, to kind of showcase how they work. Yeah, we're going back to these. I think this is what I'm going to kind of try this year and really try to stick with it and master it. I'll probably still carry my glass pot call because I really do like the sound that I get from this.
What you just went over is you went over the 3 main categories of calls for speaking a turkey's love language, right?
Yeah, for communicating with a turkey in terms of, hey, come hang out, right? Come check out this pretty turkey hen, right? Let's try to get you in to the action. Yeah.
Yeah. And so say you just get out in the woods and you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I need to start my search? Where are these turkeys at? What do I need to be doing?
Yeah.
So I kind of saw you pull out a couple of different locator calls. You just want to kind of go over what...
Sure. Yeah, so within the range, when you're talking about turkey calls, you've got the attractors, right? These are the ones that are going to bring in and saying, hey, I'm ready for action, signaling that there's a hen ready to mate. Like you said, though, if you're scouting, if you're doing public land hunting and you really don't know the area and you're just trying to get a sense, 1, are there birds in the area? 2, where the heck are those birds? Yeah, you go to something called what they call locator calls, right? In my case, I use what you would consider a barred owl call, right? So this mimics a predatory bird that turkeys don't really like. But, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Because at times, when you blow the barred owl call, it'll wake up a turkey and tell you where it's at, right? A gobbler. You'll hear a gobble.
What was it like the first time you ever heard a gobble after blowing one of those things? I mean, at least to me, it is absolutely bone chilling.
It sounds very foreign, right? Because you know what a turkey sounds like because of, TV. But when you hear something respond to any one of these mechanisms, you hear this thing off to the distance or close by. It's a very, very thrilling feeling, right? Because
it is. Yeah.
You just don't expect this sound in nature. And it's just like, whatever that sound is. So the locators will basically help you kind of determine. It's a quick and easy way to determine, is there anything in the area, right? You do have to use them carefully because sometimes when you blow these, you have to go you have to really quickly go into active listening, right? Because they could be off at a distance. So you got to almost like immediately shut up and then listen.
Yeah, and it's a pretty immediate thing too, right? I mean, as soon as you start blowing that thing, you got to be listening, because you never really know what's going on. And then
and then you have a crow call. Like I run a crow call. Some people like the woodpecker calls. Again, it really depends. Time of day. Mornings usually is a crow. You know, before light is the owl, or I would say dusk is the owl, the barred owl. Again, from a location standpoint, right? Just, are there turkeys in the area? These are kind of my go-tos. I've had some success with them, so that's what I stick with for the most part. So yeah, that's kind of the arsenal when it comes to like the calls. Again, you can do an episode or a video on each one of these things, and maybe we do, right, for our viewers later on. We do kind of a breakdown of the actual calls and the locator calls. Yeah. But
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's kind of what I have. That's what I run, and like I said, every year my goal is like, how much less can I carry, right?
Yeah.
Just to try to be a little bit more mobile, more nimble, and while I'm out there. Yeah. So
and to really not have to carry around as much stuff. I mean, me speaking from kind of what I carry, it's a small little backpack. I mean, it's not really the most efficient way to carry things, right? I don't have a turkey vest, so I'm kind of working with what I got, and so I'm bringing out very similar combo of gear as what you are, and it's just really
different packaging.
What works for you?
Just what works for you. So yeah, man. So I think as far as turkeys go, we're getting there. We're getting there. I know you've had some success. You were already bragging about your second turkey that you got mounted. So, not throwing shade. I feel like I'm under at this point.
But I will say that one definite advantage that I've had, as far as like the learning process goes, is really having that mentor, right? One person that's kind of really drawn me into hunting and taught me pretty much everything that I know is my future father-in-law, and to really be able to like kind of get some lessons learned from him about his 40 plus years that he's been in the woods, right? I mean, it's cheating, right?
But at the same time, that's kind of the beauty of what we're trying to build here, right? Is how do we bring that collective knowledge? Again, you've got that benefit, right, of somebody that is taking you under their wing, so to speak, no pun intended. But now you're able to take that knowledge and kind of pass it on to our community, right? That's what this is about, man. Is enabling and passing that knowledge, right? Where before it was very, family type, right? Where grandfather passes it to son passes it to their son, but it really doesn't go beyond the family.
Exactly, and I think kind of coming in at a later stage in life, like you've done and what I've done, is it's kind of difficult, right? Because you're kind of coming into this foreign territory you don't know anything about, and you're really just trying to learn. There's so many resources out there for you to investigate, so many avenues that you can go down, trying to really figure out what you need, what you don't know, and what you need to know. Yeah. And I think it's pretty intimidating for a lot of people.
And I think a lot of people get caught up on the gear, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
myself included.
Yeah.
I'm a super big, like, I can go down a rabbit hole on, okay, I need this, put it all on the Amazon cart, and I'm like, hang on a second. I don't need any of this stuff.
Or how much do you end up using after the season is all said and done, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of how I take stock of stuff and really going into it. Again, the lessons that I applied are really, one, I haven't been successful at actually taking a turkey, but my wife and I have been successful at calling in turkeys, right? So we're one step further, meaning every year we make progress, right? In our own way, we're still learning. And the fact that we're learning together, my wife and I, that's cool, right? Being able to see, experience the same thing at the same time, it almost feels like we're kind of coming up together,
Yeah, and it's a cool bond and a cool experience.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure for you absolutely. To share.
It's great. I love it. So we can talk turkey for hours, right? I think we can talk turkey for hours, but I think what we want to make sure, we do want to hit up on some housekeeping items. Again, I think we're going to be talking turkey for a couple more episodes. Not completely, but we're going to be touching on what's going on and kind of hopefully sharing some successes. But I do want to be able to leave a little bit of space here to address some listener feedback. because we want to make sure that we're delivering a better product for you guys. But last week, the episode 1, man, the questions around acronyms. I felt so guilty because I'm like, here we are trying to set up this platform for beginners and intermediates, and we're throwing around all these acronyms and, you know, kind of just assuming people knew, right? So I think we did address some of them early on. You know, WMA. What is a WMA?
Wildlife Management Area.
Yep. In the state of Georgia, all it is, it's a resource that is managed through the Department of Natural Resources that gives hunters, anglers, and outdoorsmen and women the opportunity to recreate in a public land. Right?
Yep.
Think about it as a park.
We're very fortunate.
Very fortunate.
Very fortunate to have that.
Another one was DNR.
Department of Natural Resources.
That's right. Department of Natural Resources, that's the main body for Georgia, the governing body over our state's natural resources. And we talked about diaphragm. We told, you know, we kind of went into what diaphragm was, and we went a little bit deeper into calls in general. And then I think just from a housekeeping standpoint, man, why don't we tell folks kind of some of the things that we're working on? I saw you wearing some new gear, so
yeah. So
I want to see what you're rocking.
This is kind of one of the things that's in the works. So it's a First Tracks branded T-shirt. These are just kind of the beginning phases of what we've got coming, and
that's right,
what we're really looking forward to, and really excited to be able to share that with you guys.
Yeah, so, you know, we've been taking steps, right, to ensure that, you know, we can bring awareness of what we're trying to do right through this podcast, through the First Tracks Outdoors brand. We're also working on a website that's going to allow us to connect even more with you folks, bringing articles that myself and Zach will be writing. We're going to be providing infographics that are going to be beneficial based on the subjects that we cover. We're going to have pretty much connections to all our social media platforms, which we were fortunate enough that, you know, across the platforms, we made it very easy for you guys to connect with us across Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at First Tracks Podcast at the moment. And we will be bringing the website details later on. We're still working through that. But yeah, man, merchandise, some gear, just to kind of help the channel out, to kind of help us continue this endeavor. Caps are going to be coming soon, hoodies, things like that. But we got a lot of cool things in the works. And anything else, man, that you'd like to kind of cover?
As always, you know, definitely looking for some feedback from you guys about what you want to hear, what you want us to go over, and kind of how you guys feel about the overall format of the show. And so I think really it's just kind of important for us to stay engaged with you guys and really cater this to our listeners and the people who are in the same exact position as us.
Right.
So.
Right. All right, man. Well, with that said, I think we can put this one to rest. I think anything else that you'd like to kind of tell our listeners?
If you like the channel, you like the content that we're putting out, please feel free to like and subscribe us on all of our social media platforms, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
All right. As always, go lay your own tracks. This is Victor.
And I'm Zach.
Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.